Hello, everybody, and welcome again to another edition of Movie Masters. We are your hosts, Movie Master Mike.
And Boston Boy.
And we are back and just as mediocre as ever with our review of Age of Ultron, the Avengers movie. It just came out yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Well, some theaters Thursday, but yeah.
Yeah, I think most places it came out Thursday evening.
Right.
And I actually went to go see it Thursday night at 12:01, so really technically 12:01 Friday. But there were multiple showings before that. I ended up seeing it at 12:01. And then with some work buddies, and then you and I went to see it last night at like 7:45 or something like that.
So you've had two accounts, so you'll probably be a little more fresh, whereas probably doesn't serve me for reviewing movies, but my memory's terrible, but I'm trying to remember what happened. But
right, well, I see it twice, so it's really in my mind, 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
We're really the same day twice, but whatever. But this is going to be spoiler heavy. We're going to talk about absolutely everything that happens in the movie. So if you have not seen it, go watch it. We totally recommend it because it's so awesome.
Yeah.
And come back and listen to us. But let's get straight into it. It starts off with an action sequence.
Yes.
Well, actually, the first thing we see are the twins. That's the very first thing we see is or first characters we see anyway, are the twins, the Maximals.
Yeah.
Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. And then it goes into this action sequence where the Avengers are. We find out they've been tracking down Hydra-like bases and taking them all down.
Right.
Looking for the staff, Loki's staff from the last Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
And so they finally got to this one, and it just seemed kind of routine. But then there's tons of people for them to battle through, so they call in Code Green. You don't see them calling in Code Green, but you find out they're Code Green because obviously the Hulk is there.
The Hulk, yeah. And
you find out later, he goes on the missions, but he kind of just stays in the ship, and if they say Code Green, he hulks out and goes and helps.
Right.
And so then they find out that the staff is there. That's why it was so heavily fortified. And
right.
And you see a few things, action things like Thor and Captain America and Black Widow driving with Hawkeye shooting arrows on the top of this truck. And then you see this awesome hero shot of slow motion, them jumping over this gap in the woods.
All of them,
it's like a side shot. But you see all of them in a row, and it's so badass.
And Thor's hammers lightning, and they're all looking badass. Yeah.
Yep. And Iron Man goes in. He's trying to figure out how he can get the shield down on this base that they're trying to infiltrate, and so he finally figures it out, obviously, and knocks it down. But then the twins are sent out. Well, they're not sent out because.
Well, I guess this is one thing I was kind of questioning during the movie, whether Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver they weren't. Born of human experimentation, right? Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, they were just mutants, right?
Well, in the comics, they're mutants. Totally, they're Magneto's children.
What they did here is that Hydra was experimenting on humans and
using the staff. Yeah,
right.
Because there was that whole lawsuit between Marvel and Marvel Studios and Fox.
Right. That
they both wanted to use these characters. It's they're Magneto's children. They're X-Men. It's but they're also Avengers from the comics. It's so we can use them. It's no, but we can use them.
So they came to
an agreement where each franchise and studio could use them, but they have to be portrayed by different actors and not mention anything that happens in either movie. So these characters can't mention Magneto, the mutant, is my father.
Mm-hmm.
And in X-Men, they can't mention
the Avengers,
anything about the Avengers, Captain America, anybody. So So both franchises ended up using them, portrayed by different actors. Funnily enough, both of the actors who play Quicksilver were in Kick-Ass.
Right.
Obviously, this one being
the main character,
Kick-Ass.
And that's something I wanted to touch on at some point. I liked him for Kick-Ass, but everything else I've seen him in, I see Kick-Ass, and it's I don't know. I just couldn't take him too seriously.
Right.
I don't know that he was meant to be too serious of a character as Quicksilver, but...
Right. They're not hugely part of the movie.
Right.
They're in it, they're a big deal, but...
They're kind of,
but they're not like Captain America or Iron Man.
Absolutely pivotal. Yeah, they could have probably phased him out, and the movie wouldn't have been as good, but...
Yeah, they didn't necessarily have to be in the movie. They could have just done something a little bit different.
They just added some to the story. And
I enjoyed them, so...
Yeah.
But they infiltrated the base.
I enjoyed her especially. I think she's so hot, man.
Yeah, I think it was funny because last year when Godzilla came out, they were both in Godzilla, and they played husband and wife.
Those two? Yeah.
Yeah,
good.
Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. And
and
that was
the other movie I've seen him in, by the way.
Yeah, so fanboys, when they were kissing in that movie, were ooh, next year they're going to be brother and sister. But anyway, they infiltrate the thing, and then the twins go out, and Quicksilver's kind of running around punching like Captain America, and he's like, whoa, there's a metahuman, or whatever he calls him, an experimental human, whatever. I forget what he says. He's there's somebody on the field, but I haven't seen him, so they
show like toying with them,
like Hawkeye's like behind a tree and he wants to shoot like this bunker. So he turns around, he shoots his arrow, and he turns back behind the tree, and
waiting for it to explode. Yeah,
he doesn't hear anything.
What the hell? That didn't happen.
Yeah, because we see Quicksilver go and catch it, and then he comes like knocks over Hawkeye, and he's like, "What? You didn't see that coming?"
Yeah.
And that's kind of a running gag throughout the movie between those two characters.
Right.
But then Tony goes down. He finds the staff that Loki had last movie, and he sees one of the giant like alien whales from the last movie.
Yeah.
Like all this tech, like wow, what were they doing? Scarlet Witch like creeps up behind him. Like the first part of the movie, like the first time you see her in this sequence, they really like edit to where it's like almost like a horror movie where she like kind of flashes in and out of the shot.
Yeah,
and it's really weird and creepy.
Yeah, but then they don't really do the rest of the movie. How is she so good at coming up behind people? You know what I mean? Does she have some other power? Like she's always behind people. Then all of a sudden,
and like nobody ever notices that she's there.
Right.
And they call her Scarlet Witch, and I think at one point they call her a witch. But they don't.
I don't ever hear them say Scarlet Witch.
I don't think they say Scarlet Witch. They call her like that witch or something. But
yeah, she's weird. They say at one point.
Yeah,
he's really fast and she's really weird.
Yeah, but so she sneaks up behind Tony and like gives him like this vision. It's not really. They're not really. They're like visions and like LSD trips, kind of. Like,
yeah, like it's supposed to be like your worst fear or something like that.
Yeah, like you see like what they are capable of doing and things. So his is the destruction of the Avengers, and so it freaks him out. And so he doesn't want that to happen. He doesn't want the Avengers to die. So after they get the staff...
so then there's a part right there where he has like his fists or whatever,
because when he gets into the castle, he steps out of the suit and puts it in sentry mode, so he's just standing there at
guarding,
ready.
Which is dope, by the way.
Yeah, it was super cool. And so he stands there, puts his arm out, and just his gauntlet comes to him, and he picks the staff up, and what's her name like smiles real big, like take that staff, destroy the Avengers with it,
right?
Because she knows what it's capable of doing, because they obviously gave her and her brother these powers,
right?
And so then mission over. They call for a lullaby,
which is where
Black Widow
goes and calms down, and that's a new thing. You know what I mean? That's completely new.
Yeah. Because like we never got to see how the Hulk calmed down after the battle in the first movie.
Right.
It was just over. Then they were eating shawarma, but.
And so Black Widow's just like stroking his hand, and it's kind of lame.
Calm him down. Like her opening line is like, "Hey, big guy, the sun's getting real low." Like.
Yeah, and she says that again later on.
Yeah.
So that's the line that does it for him. The sun's getting low.
And it's probably that throughout the movie, they obviously play up that like they're in love and they want to be together. So that's probably, it has to do with something.
Yeah.
Like in the comics and like most of the movies, it's Betty Ross that can calm him down.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, it's
Scarlet
or Black Widow. Yeah, I confuse those two names all the time. But then there's a sequence where they're flying the ship back. They have the staff. Everyone's happy, and Hulk's listening to classical music, or Banner's listening to classical music on the ship ride back to...
He just got Beats by Dre, and I saw that, I was like, oh man, what a, like...
Yeah.
Obviously just money grab. I wish they didn't do that, but anyway.
Yeah, well, Banner's just sad, and he's like, I didn't expect to code green, and all these things. And she's like Thor, tell him about Hulk. He's like, oh, hell is filled with souls from the Hulk.
The screaming.
Yeah, and she's like, she looks at him like, you idiot, that's not what I wanted you to say. He's like, oh, but not dead souls, just injured, broken arms, and whatever.
What is he, the way he comes over it is so funny.
He's trying to save himself, and it's so funny. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But Tony Stark says, you can take the staff back to Asgard. Just give me 3 days with it, because we're gonna have this party in a couple of days. Let me keep it till then so we can study and all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then it kind of cuts to the party scene. Well, then there's the scene where Maria Hill, who's working for Stark Industries now, is telling Captain America about these two, the Maximoff kids. They were rebels.
Somehow she's got this intel on them. I don't know how she would.
Yeah. Like they got all this intel on pretty much everything that Hydra was doing and stuff. And she says it in all these scientific terms, and he just kind of looks at her. He's fast and she's weird.
Right, yeah.
But then there's the party scene, which is one of my favorite scenes in the movie, because it's just
Wait, does it cut there right then?
No, you're right. It cuts to Bruce and Tony,
and they're working on
the staff. And he's telling him, I have a vision of a world coated in armor. And he's like, that's a pretty big vision, Tony. But you pretty much see Jarvis in form, which is just this weird
like
CG thing,
spherical, orange. It's an orange sphere, and it looks like a computer. It looks computer.
Yeah. I don't know. Like it's just this thing, and he's like, and this is what I found, like kind of inside the jewel of the staff, and it's bigger than Jarvis and blue, and
it looks like a brain, like it's got like the what do you call them?
The photons firing, and again, and Banner is like totally shocked, like wow, this is amazing, like it's beautiful, and so he's like, yeah, like I want to take this. And like kind of combine it with Jarvis. And make artificial intelligence, and then we can have.
Well, they don't actually say artificial intelligence, at least not right out, and then finally he's like, "You're talking about AI, like artificial intelligence." And
because Banner or Tony really wants this to be the guardian of the world. Like, if aliens come down, this guy can take care of that thing, and if they get past him, then we'll come in. But and they say later in the movie, like. Isn't the mission to disband the Avengers, make us obsolete, like so we don't have to do this anymore? We can go home.
Right.
And so that's his thinking. Like, let's make this artificial intelligence.
So we don't die fighting,
Yeah. And so Banner kind of like, nah, okay, but Tony doesn't want to tell the team. He doesn't want to deal with the bureaucracy and everyone bickering about is it morally right? Can't we do this? Should we do this?
Thank God, no.
Yeah. So he's like, let's just do it. So they try, and there's a little tiny montage of them walking around the lab trying to figure it out.
Working on it.
It's been those 3 days before the party, so then they're like, all right, well, we'll keep running a simulation, and then we'll just go to this party. Yeah. And right after they leave, it works, and he starts to form, and he starts talking to Jarvis.
And there's Ultron like a scene where it's like, it's almost like, what's that movie where the bicycles have like the Tron? It's almost like Tron. Yeah. I don't know. It kind of.
It's like that. Like, it's like going into the Matrix. All you see is like inside the computers and stuff, and
and
it's Jarvis talking to Ultron, just the voice, and Ultron. He's very, very human. He's like, what? This is weird.
Yeah, I don't have a body. I feel like I should have a body. It's weird not having one,
Yeah, and so they just kind of talk a little bit, and then Jarvis keeps saying, like, I want to call Tony. Like, let me call Tony. Like, I think you're going to hurt me. And so he does. Like, he assimilates, basically, Jarvis. And then it cuts, and Tony calls in the first battle these iron, what do you call it? Iron...
Defenders or whatever.
Yeah, something like that. And it's just a bunch of iron bots, And so one of them was injured. So, like, in the Stark Tower, there's like a assembly line for them to get fixed.
Like a badass assembly line, like.
Yeah. But so you basically see that Ultron's conscious wants to be put into a body.
Right.
And then it cuts to the party scene, which I think is awesome. It's got everybody in it.
Right.
You see Falcon briefly.
Yeah.
War Machine is there. Everybody's there. There's a Stan Lee cameo.
Yeah, yeah.
Lots of comedy. So much comedy in the scene.
And there was a lot of this in the first movie, especially the part where Hulk is like slamming Loki around in the first movie. You know what I mean? Like there's
lots of comedy.
But a lot of those leading up to this movie, a lot of times go, oh, that's cheesy. You know what I mean? But a lot of the subtle like idiosyncrasies, like there's one point during the party where we were talking about in private earlier, where War Machine Rhodey. Yeah.
He's telling Thor and Captain America, I think.
Yeah, he's like, he's like talking about how he stole the War Machine suit, right? And
he was talking about, you don't know who, but like it was like some general's house, like, he's like, so I picked up this tank and I slammed it down in his porch. Boom! You looking for this?
Is this what you're looking for? Or something like that, yeah. Is it looking for this? Yeah.
Something like that. But Thor and Captain America like
just like sitting, and he's like, that usually kills at every party. Everyone goes crazy for it. You know what I mean?
He's like, boom! And they're like, oh, that's the end of the story. Oh, yeah, very, very good.
Cool.
Very
yeah. I'm a god of thunder.
And nothing you can do can impress me.
Right.
But and then later in the scene, you see him talking to just some random guest.
A bunch of like
girls. And he tells the same story, and everyone laughs.
Yeah, you see the very end. It cuts in. He's like, and I was like, boom! Like, how do you like that, or whatever he says, and they're and like his face is just like he nods.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, that's right. It's funny. It's a good story.
That's what I was hunting for.
It's super hilarious. But there's a little scene between Captain America and Falcon, and Falcon says something along the lines like, "Oh, I wish I would have been there for that opening fight scene you guys had." He's like, well, if I knew there was going to be fighting, I totally would have called you in. He's like, no, I'm not actually sorry. I'm totally okay with working on this missing persons case, which the missing person is Bucky, the Winter Soldier. He went missing, so Falcon's out looking for him. He kind of dropped that hint. And I like the fact that Falcon, he's like, no, I'm okay with not doing that. I was a soldier of war. I saw the death and everything, and I'll help you when you need me. And I'm totally happy to be an Avenger when you need me, but I'm okay with not. So I like that little scene. then there's a little romantic scene between Banner and...
Yeah, and it's kind of sappy, and it's...
Yeah.
It's just weird to me, because, like, there's no way that this smoking hot, you know what I mean, would go for him. He just, I don't know, but...
Yeah.
It's not as awkward as... Sometimes in a movie, there's, like, a love scene, it makes me feel like I have to get up and walk away. It's, like, sappy shit, you know, but it wasn't overwhelmingly saccharine, you know what I mean? It was...
How do you feel about them having a love story and not, like, her and somebody else and...
Not great. I'd prefer it being almost anyone else.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Like, I'm happy for Banner, but...
It was like this amazing, like, she's supposed to speak 7 different languages. Like, she's a fucking catch, you know what I mean? And, I mean, he's a scientist and he's brilliant, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see it. But
yeah,
anyway,
but it was kind of like... The scene, like, you know, he comes up, he's like, oh, hey, how'd a beautiful girl like you end up working in a dump like this? And, like...
It's like
they're talking about hooking up, but they don't actually say, like, we should hook up. Like, it's all, like...
Almost like it's in third person, I don't know.
Yeah. She's like, oh, I know this guy, like, he's really, really awesome, really smart. Like, should I go for it? He's like, well, maybe, I guess. Like, he doesn't quite know what to do, and... So, like, the scene, their conversation kind of ends, and Cap comes up, and, he's saying, he's like, wow, like, you know, you two, he's like, oh, us too? Like, no, she's nice and everything, but no.
Yeah.
He's like, no, she just likes to flirt, and Cap's like...
I've seen her flirt firsthand. That's not flirting. Like, that's more. She wants to be with you, basically.
Yeah, it's funny because it ends on Banner going, wait, what do you mean close up? Because we saw in the last Captain America her really flirting with him. And,
right.
And I liked how in that movie, like, yeah, she's flirting with him, but the whole time she was trying to set him up with somebody else.
Yeah.
I think, like, her only interest in Captain America is that her feminine wiles don't work on him. He's so old-fashioned and classic and still in love with
his girl,
Agent Carter
right.
that nothing she does will affect him. And she's kind of interested in that aspect, but doesn't actually want to be with him.
Yeah.
It's Banner that she likes. But there's lots of comedy. Thor, I think it was Rhodey, Thor, Iron Man, and Maria Hill were talking, and she's like, oh, where are the ladies at? Like, you know, where's Pepper and Jane Foster?
Oh, yeah, that's right. That was the other
it's
part.
so funny because Tony's like, oh, well, Pepper's, you know, the head of the
CEO
boss, and she has so much to do.
And Thor's like, well, I'm pretty sure, you know, what's her name again?
Jane Foster, after the convergence of the last Thor movie, like, she's the foremost astronomer. I don't even know where she is.
I think she's getting a Nobel Peace Prize, actually, something like that. And so they're going back and forth about how their girlfriend, and then
Maria Hill's like, testosterone.
So, yeah, and she walks off, and then Thor's like,
but Jane's better.
Jane's better. That's right.
It's really funny. Lots of comedy. And you see, it's Thor and Cap and somebody else is there. And he's got this little vial, and he's like, this is aged for 1,000 years in the casket of this. It's like, you know, some kind of whiskey or whatever from Asgard. He poured a little bit in his drink, gave it
just like a little
Cap,
splash.
And one form for him was like, it's not meant for mortal men.
Right.
Then you hear the Stanley cameo. He's like, don't give us that garbage. Like,
give me some of that, yeah.
Like, I'm a war veteran or whatever. Like, so, you know, hand it over or whatever he says. And they're like, okay.
And then he shows him splash, and then the next scene is just Stanley a bunch of the old guys are just passed out, and Stanley's, what does he say? He says something.
He says, Excelsior.
Oh, Excelsior, that's it.
It was so funny. It was weird. Like, a lot of the laughs were tenfold in the midnight showing I went to than last night we went to. Yeah, like, that got a huge laugh at the midnight showing.
Really?
Because I think most people that go with midnight are fanboys and not just moviegoers.
Right.
So they knew that, you know,
Stanley.
Excelsior is something that he used to say, and it was like a little show and stuff. So, but yeah, that was a nice little laugh.
Yeah.
But then one of the best scenes is like it's kind of just like the core group after hours at the party.
Yeah.
And they're talking about how like it's just a bunch of bull crap that nobody can pick up the hammer but Thor.
Oh, yeah. And,
so he's like, all right, you know, go for it. So Hawkeye's like, yeah, okay, and he can't do it, and then there was a little joke. He's like it's been a rough week for you. Like, we understand if you can't get it up.
Yeah, right.
That was a funny joke.
And then there's Tony. I think Tony Stark.
Tony does. He's like, I'll be right back.
Yeah, so he tries with his hands. He can't. So
no. There was a really funny joke because he's like, oh, so basically if I pick this up, I become ruler of Asgard. And Thor's like, absolutely. He's like, well, I'm going to bring back Prima Noctra, which I think is hilarious because I know what that is. Right. But so he thinks he can do it. He's like, I'll be right back. And he's got just the gauntlet from the Iron Man suit, and he's trying to use the hydraulics and stuff to lift it. And then
him and Rhodey both do hydraulics. And neither can do it. Who else tries? Oh yeah, no, Hulk.
Banner, Banner. He does it.
He's just like barely tries. He's like, rah! He makes his noise. And
it's
that part's funny too.
Super awkward. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. But it was funny. I thought it was funny.
And then it was Cap's turn.
Oh, yeah.
And he kind of... It's on like a glass table, and you hear a little... Like it moved a little bit, and you see Thor's face like, what? Mm. And then he can't do it, so it's like, I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, great. Like, Thor's face.
I actually didn't catch that. I thought it just didn't move at all. That's cool.
Yeah, no, it squeaked a little bit, so Thor's face like goes like sunken, like, oh my god, somebody else can lift it, but then he can't, so he gets happy again.
Right.
And everyone's like, oh, it's got to be just like your fingerprints are the only things that can do it. He's like, no, I know the explanation. You're all not worthy.
You're all not worthy, yeah.
But then in comes Ultron, and not just
like
one of the regular bots.
up.
Yeah, like he put himself into like the half-built one.
Right.
But he comes like stumbling
so it looks
in.
kind of, sinister, and he's,
Yeah, he can barely move, and he's basically saying that like, you guys are what's wrong with the world. Like, you guys kill everybody, and the Avengers need to be extinct for the human race to evolve.
Right. Not that that was another part that throughout the movie, it's like, I don't really understand that. Like, what is his logic and reason behind that? Why? You know what I mean? But for whatever reason, his robot mind wants to kill the Avengers pretty damn bad.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the whole planet, we find out later. But
so then the Avengers start attacking him, and he controls the bots now. Like, he put himself into the internet and everything, so he pretty much can control basically anything that's robotic and machine.
Right.
So they have like this little fight with all the robots and stuff. And
he calls out Iron Man's other robots, and they all burst in, and there's a...
Yeah, it's pretty cool because like you see Tony Stark jump on a bot, not Iron Man, and like take out its like... he pretty much cuts out its jugular vein, equivalent.
Yeah.
And you see Cap fighting, like they're all like just like in suits and ties or whatever, and Banner like tackles Scarlet Witch over the bar and like lands like face in between her cleavage. Yeah, he's like, sorry. She's like, don't turn green.
Right.
But then they destroy the thing like they destroy all the bots, and Ultron says some more things about what he's gonna do, all these plans that he has or whatever.
Yeah.
Thor throws his hammer at it, it's destroyed, but obviously he's in anything, so he can just kind of do whatever.
Yeah.
But one of the bots grabs the scepter and makes gets off with it before everything else is destroyed. So then Thor goes after it, and they're trying to figure out what happened, and everyone's pissed off at Tony for making Ultron, and it's his fault.
Yeah.
And when Thor comes back, he chokes him. He's like, I have so many words to say about you, and and so nobody likes Tony at the moment. And then we cut to what do they do next? I can't remember.
I mean, Tony tries to justify it, but anyway.
Yeah, he thinks it's hilarious, but nobody
he starts laughing at one point. So
yeah, that was kind of weird.
Oh, man, what's after that?
They end up, they figure out that something about this arms dealer. They figure out that
that's right.
He has to go to these Ultron's going to this arms dealer, so you figure out that this arms dealer, he had this brand on his neck. So like, what is that? And Banner's like, oh, it's basically a brand saying like liar, but in
worse terms.
It's like, well, where's it from? Like some African country, Wakanda. He's like, no, Wakanda.
Yeah.
And Tony.
I thought we would see something from Black Panther.
But Tony and Cap look at each other, and Cap's like, I thought your dad got away with like all of it, what's left in the world.
Yeah.
I guess not. Like if he can get out of Wakanda with vibranium, then he's a pretty big target. And so they go, and he's not in Wakanda anymore. He's in South Africa in these shipyards, this graveyard basically for all these boats.
Yeah.
And then Ultron and twins show up to intimidate this arms dealer. I forget his name.
Yeah.
And it's played by Gollum, the guy who plays Gollum.
Yeah, and I didn't know that. He told me that later on, but yeah.
And it's pretty funny. He's because he kind of knows who they are. He's like, if you're gonna make me, he's like, I'm not afraid of anything but cuttlefish, which is kind of a funny little scene. But then Ultron comes and talks to him about business.
Yeah,
show me the vibranium. So he gives it to him. He's like, the stuff's worth billions.
He's like, oh well, here's $1 billion, and he shows him holding his phone and his billions.
Yeah, like in his bank account, he's like, here's now you're worth billions too.
Yeah.
He's like bank accounts are so weird. Like people are so weird. Like I don't understand.
Yeah.
He's like, but then Ultron says like, keep your friends rich and your enemies rich, and then find out which is which. Mm-hmm. And he's like, wait, like Tony Stark. That's what Tony Stark used to say to me. He's like, you're one of him. Like you're working with Tony Stark.
Yeah.
And it pisses Ultron off. He's like, don't ever,
try to compare me with Tony Stark.
Yeah, like he's getting pissed and he ends up slicing the dude's
arm
off. The way he
does is just like, wait, what? Like, what did you... And he just, like, slaps him, but his arm comes right
up.
Yeah,
and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sure it'll be okay.
And then he's like, wait, you compare me with Tony Stark? And he, like, kicks him down the stairs. And
first he kind of apologizes, then he's like, wait, I apologize because you're comparing me to Tony Stark, and it pisses him off again.
Right, yeah.
Which, how did you feel about Ultron, like, having personality?
And not just being, new. Like, robot? Yeah, that's, you know, unique to the movie, as far as I know.
Because my first viewing, I was I don't know. Like,
worked. Yeah. I mean, at first I kind of had a problem with it. I thought it was weird, you know, but I think it worked out. The fact that they were, you know, like moral, verbal battles, you know what I mean? And the fact that he had a personality, I don't know, it worked out okay. Who does the voice? That was another thing.
James Spader.
Who is?
He's on that new show, The Blacklist.
I don't know.
I think it's on its second season, but he was in...
It sounds familiar.
He was in the first Stargate movie.
Alright.
Yeah, but in my first viewing, I kind of had a problem with him, like, being kind of goofy and weird and having like, human personality. Quirks, and quirks and stuff, but the second viewing, I was way more on board with it. It made him more enjoyable to watch. But then there's, then the Avengers show up, and there's another joke, like, Ultron says a joke about Thor, or somebody says something and Ultron like finishes the joke, and Iron Man's like, he beat me by 1 second on that joke.
Right.
But then
because it was really quick, you know. But anyway,
then a fight ensues, and Quicksilver, you know, beating up on people. It's pretty cool. Like, Thor throws his hammer and he's running real fast. They don't do it like super duper slow motion like they did in X-Men.
Right.
But you know,
it's like time's still moving, but it's just like
crazy.
But
like because he can see the hammer fly by. He's like, huh.
And he goes to grab it.
Yeah, and it just pulls him back, and
it's
pretty funny. But all the Avengers are there. They're trying to take him down, and
well, that's kind of what does him in. So he flies back, and I think Hawkeye is the one that comes in and finishes him off, right?
Yeah, like he hits him and stuff, and then or I think it might have been Cap. He's like, stay down,
stay down, yeah.
But Scarlet Witch goes up to Thor and, like, you know, does her little mind thing, and he's kind of just like, huh? He's like, one of them tries to mess with my mind, like,
but that's for mortal men, you know. I'm too strong for that. But then, like, he walks through a door, and like it's like this completely. It's I don't know if it's where it's supposed to be exactly.
Probably somewhere in Asgard or Hell, maybe.
Okay, because I mean, it didn't look like Asgard. It looked like Africa or something, you know.
Yeah, but he says, like, yo, she's messing with my mind, like, you know. You mortals might want to take care. Luckily, I am mighty. And like right as he said that, like the Vision comes in. He's like, "Wait, what the fuck?" Yeah. And Heimdall's there, and like his eyes are different. He's like, "We're all dead. Like you killed us all." Like he's like, "No, I can still save you." Like, And he has all these weird flashes, and you see a little bit of flash of the gems and the gauntlet, but like barely. Like I missed it the first time I watched it.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, and so he's tripping out. And then she flashes on Cap. And he starts to trip out. He's like at this like party in the 40s, and Agent Carter is there. She's like, you know, the war's over. We can finally be together and have our dance. And it's kind of trippy. Like, it does show like some people bleeding. It's really, really weird.
Weird, yeah.
And then she does it to Scarlet Witch, or damn it,
Black Widow.
Scarlet
Witch does it to Scarlet Witch.
And so she's really tripping out about when she was being raised as an assassin in Russia. All the things that to do: learn ballet, learn how to shoot, you know, switch hands while shooting, and all these things,
killing people,
and all the things that she had to endure during that. And she's about to do Hawkeye, but he turns around, like, puts an arrow in the head. He's like,
her brain.
Yeah, and he's like, I did the whole mind control thing. Wasn't a fan.
Yeah, not a fan.
Because in the last one, he was mind controlled by the scepter. And then Ultron, all the while, Ultron and Iron Man are fighting outside the boat, and he's about to defeat Ultron. He says they have some words, and he's like, but right now I think you should worry about Banner.
Yeah.
Because Quicksilver and what's her name get out, and she's like, no, okay, like the arrow fucked with my mind, but like I'm okay now.
Let's get the big one.
Yeah, I want to get the big one.
And then they kind of flash Banner waiting in the airplane, like he hangs back till
he's
code green.
Like, guys, like, is this a code green? And you hear like, yes, like, so he kind of, but he still kind of worries. He's like, that's kind of weird. So he's just kind of like looking out the plane, like, do I go in? Like, it doesn't seem all that bad.
Right.
But then,
so then
the next thing you see is Hulk like looking really ragged, like more ragged than before. His eyes are all red. It looks like he hasn't slept in like a month. And he's running towards the city.
Right.
And that's when Iron Man goes to...
My favorite scene in the whole freaking movie.
The whole movie.
Like, they killed it. Like, that's one thing with a lot of these superhero movies. I feel like, you know, it builds up to a final fight scene, and the fight scene lasts maybe 5 minutes. Not even. I mean, this might have been 5 minutes, but it was action-packed.
Yeah, this scene was fucking... It was longer. Longer than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
So he runs into the city and just starts tearing shit up, and so Iron Man's the only one left. Like, everyone else is incapacitated, and and Hawkeye's trying to, like, help everybody.
Mm.
So he's like... And earlier in the movie, you hear Tony and Banner talking about... He's like, imagine a world, like, you know, where you're not looking over your shoulder for Veronica. He's like, hey, I helped design Veronica.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't catch that in my first viewing. I did the second one. And then, so you hear Tony say, like, all right, I'm going to call him Veronica. And it's out in space. Veronica. And he starts shooting down these things, and Hulk's just smashing things up. And all of a sudden, all these, like, 5-6 pillars come around him and start shocking the crap of him so he can't move. And it totally encases him. And so he's trapped in this thing while the Hulkbuster armor is coming around Iron Man slowly. Yeah. And so he ends up, like... My first viewing, I was like, he's just gonna like dig under it, and that's exactly what he does. Like he digs under and he pops up out of the ground.
Like
somewhere
that's what I was
else.
saying. Like it had to be on cement. Like what if it was on Earth? You know what I mean? Like that would have been a little bit harder. But anyway.
And so he busts out, and he's still mind control. He's just apeshit fucking crazy. So him and Hulkbuster Iron Man have this epic fucking battle throughout the city.
Yeah.
And it is so fucking badass. No matter what Iron Man is throwing at him, Hulk just takes it and gives it back.
Yeah, and vice versa. I mean, Iron
Man was fucking him up, but you know, he couldn't stop the Hulk. Hulk ends up like shoving something into the arm and fucking up one of his arms. So
yeah, but then he just like uses his other arm, just like tears him up. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so he gets a new arm on the suit, and it's got these crazy hydraulics. So he's using these hydraulics to punch Hulk in the face. He's like, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep.
Yeah.
And then so Hulk like grabs that fist, but then it encases Hulk's arm.
Right.
And he was going to use it to take him away from the city somewhere.
Yeah, so he starts flying off.
Yeah, but then Hulk like drags him down.
His leg or something and throws him into a building. And
and he has to save these people from an elevator. Then he uses the elevator as like a whip to like whip him. And it just keeps going. Like nothing's stopping the Hulk until he flies him up. Again, he sees a building being built, and it's a really big building. So he flies him up.
There's no civilians in the building.
So he flies him up over the building, throws him down, and then flies into him, like trying to drag him into the ground as hard as he can.
Right, and he does, right?
Yeah, so that finally, like... So, I mean, the Hulk gets up again. Like, nothing's going to stop the Hulk.
Right.
But it kicks Scarlet Witch out of his mind. So now he's a lot more calm. He sees everybody, like, scared of him and about to shoot him. So he's like, oh, like... You can see Hulk kind of, like... coming back, like he can see, like, oh, maybe I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah. And
right before they start to click their guns, Hulkbuster smashes him in the face. Because he was at his calmest state, I think that's why.
It just put him out.
It put him out. So then everyone's all fucked up and disturbed from all this crap that just happened, and they're back on the ship. And Maria Hill's saying, the media loves you, but everybody else hates you. Like, you guys should probably lay low for a while. Don't come back to Stark Tower, because everyone's going to have a media frenzy.
Last night I couldn't remember what it was that I had a problem with, and this is what I had a problem with. So Hawkeye's flying the ship, and Tony's like, "Oh, you want me to take over?" He's like, "No, I got it. We're gonna go to a safe house." Mm.
So then it's like they go to this farmhouse in the middle, like somewhere in the country, and they get there, and because like earlier they introduced a scientist, this Korean scientist who does like. Specializes in like creating tissue and stuff like that.
Tissue.
And so they
that
fix
was something
Hawkeye.
I meant to mention that. Yeah, in the very opening scene, Hawkeye gets injured. They take him to a facility.
She comes to their facility at Stark Tower and they fix him up and
right.
Stuff.
Okay, well she rebuilds his human tissue early in the movie.
Yeah.
So
the doctor says like your girlfriend will never even know it's fake tissue. He's like, I don't have a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And then later in the movie you see him talking to somebody. He's like, no, I only answer to you. Like he's talking to a woman. We don't know who, and they're like, "Who are you talking to?" He's like, "Oh, my girlfriend."
Yeah.
And or a girlfriend. But then we come to this house, and it turns out it's his wife. He has 2 children. And his wife is
like
expecting.
A country bumpkin little home.
Yeah, he wears flannel shirts.
Here's Thor, and
Captain America. They're all in suits, and he's like, he has a wife and kids, and And Tony's like, because Tony didn't even know. He's like. When he sees her, he's like, "Oh, she must be some kind of agent." And then his kid's like, "And they're smaller agents."
Agents, yeah.
He's like, "Okay, I'm sorry, we were too busy not knowing you existed." And,
yeah.
So then there's lots of tension between the crew. Like Thor steps out And he's like, I have to. Like, I saw something in those visions, and I need to go find out exactly what it was. This might be super important. So he just flies off.
There's something I missed in my dream, and
I need to
you have to go revisit your dreams because sometimes if something you miss is what's important anyway.
Yeah, so he leaves, and Cap doesn't like the fact that nobody's telling him anything. Tony and Banner didn't tell him about Ultron. Thor didn't tell him where he was going or why or when he's going to come back, and so he's pissed at everybody. And you find out that Hawkeye's wife, and that's what you don't have you have a problem with, is that he's married and has kids.
The whole scene, like this could have. I remember as I'm watching it, thinking like from beginning to end, this entire scene could have been completely removed from the movie, and it wouldn't have had any effect, or maybe put it in for just a moment, like we went to a safe house, but it went on and on and on.
Yeah, it did go on for
25 minutes.
Yeah, I mean there was a few jokes like Hawkeye's wife saying like, oh, what's up with Banner, and they call her Nat, like. So they're actually friends. So she's the only one that knew that this existed. Yeah, his wife and kids. And he's like, "What, them? No." And she's like, "Yeah, it's totally obvious. Like, I'll tell you when you're old enough." And he's like, "All right, whatever." And you kind of find out that he's constantly working on the house. He's like, "Oh yeah, last project, swear." There's a little scene between him and his wife. He's like, "You don't think the Avengers need me?" She's like, "No, I think they do need you, and that's what scares me most." Right. Because like you're the most level-headed, normal person here. You didn't grow up this crazy Russian assassin that had to murder everybody. But then there was a little scene between Black Widow and Banner. He just got out of the shower, and she's like, "Oh, maybe I should have joined you." He's like, "Oh, yeah." It's really weird, but he's like, "I can't have all this. Like, anywhere I go, it's going to be dangerous. Like, I'm the Hulk, and the world saw what the Hulk really is yesterday in South Africa."
And then she goes on about the sub story, like, "I can't either in my
training." Because he says like, "I physically can't have children. Like, do the math. Like, the Hulk can't have kids. Like, and she's like, well, neither can I. Like, I'm barren. Like, because it made being an assassin, and
that's
they didn't say it. She didn't say it, but like, being an assassin and a spy, I pretty much had to sleep with everybody I came in contact with, and not being able to get pregnant made that easier." Right. So, but she didn't say it in so many words. But basically that's what she was alluding to. That as a spy, I had to sleep with a lot of people to get the information I needed, and I can't have kids due to that. So I'm barren.
Not only that, but I mean, if you get pregnant, you can't be, you
can't continue. Yeah, so that's why they did it as like one of the last things in the Red Room is what they called it. And I don't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I think they mentioned the Red Room in the show.
Probably.
And he's like, "What do we do? Just run away?" Like, he's like, "I'm gonna have to leave, eventually. Like, I don't think I can be part of this team for much longer." Like, and she says, "What, you thinking I have to stay?" Trying to sound like, "Yeah, we can run away together.
Right now.
Yeah, we can have this. Let's go right now. Fuck it. The team's at its worst. Like, let's go." But then Cap and Iron Man are chopping wood, and they're having words. Like, nobody. Like, Cap's pretty much pissed. Nobody fucking tells me anything. Everyone's doing everything behind my back. And they're chopping wood, and at one point he gets pissed, so he just rips the block of wood. Yeah. It's pretty funny. But then Mrs. Hawkeye, or Barton, comes like, "Hey, Tony, can you fix our tractor?" He's like, "All right, but don't take from my pile." Yeah, so we got a big laugh. Both screenings of my movie. Right. I love the movie that I went to. So he goes and he starts talking to John Deere. He's like, "Hello, Deere." Hello, Deere. Laugh. But then Nick Fury comes out of the shadows. Yeah. So he kind of brings the team together and saying like, "Oh yeah, like we have somebody at Nexus, which is where like every gigabyte or whatever of internet anything goes through Nexus. It's like a filter." Right. He's like, "We have a friend at Nexus who's been keeping Ultron out." Oh, okay. So Tony's like, Tony's like, "All right, well, I'm gonna go to Nexus and figure out who our friend is and how he's been doing it, because like earlier when he attacked Jarvis and left him basically, basically he can't use him basically, and so he's like, if he could beat Jarvis, how is somebody beating him, keeping him out of this Nexus thing?" And because after that very first encounter, like Maria Hill's like, "What's to stop him? Like now that he's in the internet, what's to stop him from getting something bigger, like nuclear codes?" Yeah. And James Rhodes says that, and Maria Hill says like nuclear codes, like nuclear codes, because he's military. That's how he thinks. Right. But and he was sent off to do something. I forget what he was supposed to be doing. Earlier in the movie, they sent him off to do something else. That's why he wasn't with them in South Africa. But there's this. It's a really long sequence of the movie when they're at the Barton farm. Right. It is really long, but I didn't really have a problem with that. Like, I actually really, really liked the fact that they gave him a wife and kids.
Yeah, and I like that too. And then, you know, he mentions that, like, you know, it's not even in the S.H.I.E.L.D. database.
Yeah,
like, we kept it down,
Nick Fury helped me keep this secret, like, as part of my deal of joining S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
But I like the fact because, like, in the first Avengers, like, you didn't know who Black Widow was into. Was it him? Because they had this history of being partners and stuff. And then in Cap 2, she had an arrow necklace. So everyone's like, oh, well, must be, you know, with him. And then in this movie, it's obviously Bruce Banner. Yeah. So then they showed that he has a wife and kids. Like, oh, good. They can leave that to rest. Like, there's no more who is she going to end up with or who is she, you know, had a history with him and stuff like that. Like, no, he has a wife and kid. And it's like, oh, good. Thank you. You know, I was happy about that.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, my problem with it is it kept going on and on and on and on and on. I mean, I feel like they could have just figured out a different way. Maybe somehow fit that in for a few minutes and then, you know, all these other little things that they kind of, I don't know, I guess it worked, but it was like a long lull between any action, you know what I mean? And I guess kind of the eye before the storm, or whatever you call it, the eye of the storm. You just acted out.
Calm before the storm.
Calm before the storm, whatever.
Yeah, but then we figure out that he's going to try to make himself an actual human body. Like, well, that's impossible. It's like, well, has anyone been touched with that doctor from earlier who gave him new skin?
Yeah, that's when they realized.
Yeah, like, oh shit, like, that's his plan. He's going to actually build a real body to be into.
Yeah.
So she's off in Korea, so that's where they go. But then he uses the staff to mind control her to give him a body.
Right.
And as it's being built, you know, he's waiting, and then the Avengers comes. He's like, "Fuck, I need more time." So like they put in a truck, and they were gonna leave and finish elsewhere.
Yeah.
But then because he was a robot, like Scarlet Witch couldn't read his mind and see what his fears and stuff were. But now she can read this humanoid body.
Yeah.
And she can read what he intends to do with it, and so it was like. She's like, I thought you just wanted to destroy the Avengers, not just the world.
Sees like all this destruction. He's playing.
Yeah. So then she takes the mind control away from the doctor. So the doctor.
She kind of like sneaks her little hand out.
Yeah. So then the
the
doctor kind of stops the process, and then the Avengers show up. So he, you know,
blasts her.
She's not. She wasn't dead, but you know, blasts her. Then they run away. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, and so he's leaving so he can go somewhere safe where the Avengers aren't to finish the process and. And so there's this huge long action sequence where, you know, they have to get the body away from Ultron, you know, and all this stuff. And
how he lets that happen, by the way, I mean, there's a point, okay, so there is this long scene, I don't know how much we want to talk about that, but ultimately, you know, Black Widow ends up, like, she gets on the airplane that it's shipping out, or that's right, he has some of the Iron Man bots come up in the truck that the body's
lift it up so he can fly away. So
flying like it's a plane. So Scarlet Witch ends up in there. She's communicating with the Hawkeye over, you know, comm or whatever. He's in another helicopter, like a jet, and she's like, yeah, meet me over here. So she cuts it loose and she falls right into the thing at some point with this body. But as she's doing that, Ultron comes in and like grabs her
and takes her
like,
away.
why grab her and not the damn thing? You know what I mean? Like, you know she's there. Why just grab her? It didn't make sense to me.
Like she was like in the thing on top of it, and like she was just closest to the door, so he grabbed her, and it was already in the ship and it was about to close and stuff. But Tony's not involved in it because he went to Nexus, which is in like Switzerland or whatever it was, Norway.
Right.
And so he's figuring out, you know, who's stopping Ultron from accessing nuclear codes or whatever he wants.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't there for this action sequence, and Hulk's not there, obviously, because after what just happened in South Africa.
Yeah.
Which, it was in Johannesburg, which is where District 9 took place.
Oh, okay.
That's where that movie took place. So, or District 9.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, there's this long action sequence, and the twins end up helping Captain America and company, and there's a subway where, because Captain America was keeping the main body of Ultron busy, while they take
fighting him in a subway,
keeping him away from them trying to take the new humanoid body away from him,
right? You know, which is downloading his consciousness into.
So they end up on this like train, and Cap and him are fighting, and then the twins come, and so he realizes what's happening. So he leaves to go, and that's when he goes and snatches Black Widow.
Yeah.
But then this train, like, it's going so fast. So Cap says, like, there's civilians in the way. You got to get them out of the way. So Quicksilver's going and getting everybody out of the way of the train. And then he's like, can you stop it? So she does. She uses her powers to stop it and stuff. And at first, my first reading, I was like, oh no, they're copying Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
They have to stop the train. But
it was different.
Yeah, a little bit.
It was like not even on the track anymore. It's like going through town.
Yeah. And the scene after that, they're back on the ship. They don't have Black Widow, and they're going back to Stark Tower.
I think that's where they're headed. They
go back to Stark Tower, and they're trying to figure out. Well, then another thing, Bruce and Tony, they're like, "Oh, hey, let's make this into the good version of Ultron."
Yeah,
and Banner's like, "What the fuck?
We are just dealing with all this nonsense because of this to begin with, and you want me to do another,
Yeah, and he's like, no, we can totally do it better. And so they start, and then the Avengers come in and they pull the plug. Like Quicksilver comes and unplugs it and shit, and everyone's pissed because we can't trust these twins. Like, no, we can. We can't do this. No, we can't.
Can't trust Tony.
Yeah, everyone's bickering at each other. And then Thor
jumps
because we find out Thor went to London, hooked up with Eric Selvig. He's like, you need to take him to this pool of dreams so I can revisit my vision. Which I don't know why he needed Eric Selvig to do. It just seemed. Let's just put him in the movie for a minute for no reason.
Right.
But he ends up going to this pool, and he's freaking out in this pool, and he's revisiting his dream, and he sees the gauntlet with all the different jewels, and he sees that, in the scepter was one of the Infinity gems and stuff, and so he just comes, in the scene, he comes flying in, gets on top of the case that has this humanoid body in it, and he gets, as much lighting as he can muster, it fucking shocks it into this thing, and everyone's like, what the fuck did you just do? And then Vision comes out.
It's one of the coolest parts of the freaking movie.
Yeah, Vision comes out, and everyone's like, "What the fuck?" And
at first you don't know it's Vision. I didn't know it was going to be Vision, but and I remember.
I think the only time they call him Vision before him is I think Ultron says he'll be my new vision of the world or whatever.
Right.
And so he busts out, and everyone's kind of just looking at him. Nothing really happens. Mm-hmm. And then he kind of goes to attack somebody, and Thor hits him.
Right.
And so he goes flying. He's about to fly out this window. Then he just kind of stops and floats there and looks out at the city. And he turns around and is like, "Oh, I'm sorry, guys. This is kind of weird." And
he grows himself a cave.
Yeah, because Thor comes up when he puts his hammer down on the table again. He's like, it's okay, because Thor wanted this to happen, because he saw that this can Ultron put the stem or the gem from the staff into his forehead, and it was the mind gem. And Thor knows about all these because he's an Asgardian and things. So he's like, the mind gem, he's the one that gave these two their powers, so we can use it. And so he's standing up for Vision. Right. So that's when Vision kind of looks at him and sees that he has a cape, so he kind of just makes himself a cape, which I thought was pretty funny. And then so he's saying I'm not. He's like, are you with us or are you against us? He's like, well, it's not really that simple. I'm on the side of life. I don't want to kill Ultron. He's unique. I just want to do the right thing. Right. So they end up figuring out that he's back at Sokovia, which is where the twins are from, which is where they were in the very beginning of the movie when they're infiltrating that base. He's back at Sokovia, and that's where he's doing his plan with whatever he needed the vibranium for. Right. He has what's-her-name captive, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were ever going to wake up, but I'm glad you did, because I don't really have anybody else to talk to." Yeah. He's like, "They really have taken..." Or no, when he first sees Vision is when he says, "They really have taken everything from me." Yeah. But, so he's like, you know what they say, whatever doesn't kill you, and then another Ultron comes and breaks that evolved Ultron. He's even bigger and looks a little bit different. It doesn't, or whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And
that's kind of cool. Yeah,
I thought it was pretty cool. I liked how throughout the movie, the body that he mostly is in, because I said, he can go from bot to bot, and he does throughout the movie. But each one that he's mainly in gets a little bit bigger and different. Yeah, I thought it was pretty badass. I thought his legs always looked a little short.
Never made that.
I know. It's anytime he was walking around, especially when they showed him from the back, he had a huge upper body and the little tiny legs. And, but then comes the huge ending, all action sequence.
Right, and I don't know what there is to really be said about it. I'm sitting there trying to think how we're gonna. I mean,
Yeah,
they just fight. There's a lot of fighting.
So what he's doing is he's using the vibranium to like keep this giant portion of the city together, lift it up off the ground. Yeah. The higher it goes, then he's gonna shoot it back down to Earth, and it's basically going to recreate a giant meteor hitting Earth and completely destroy all life on Earth.
Right.
And only the robots will survive.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have to figure out how to stop that. And my second viewing, I was like, wait, like they're going above the clouds. Air is getting pretty thin.
Yeah.
None of these people are going to survive. No matter, like, fighting. Like, these Avengers, maybe Cap can survive longer than anybody else because he's a super soldier. Mm. The Hulk because he can do anything or survive anything. And Thor because he's Asgardian. Like
Iron Man because he's in an Iron Man suit?
Yeah, but like the other two...
But he's not actually up there. He's
and, because he's down below trying to figure out how to stop it and, like, looking at the mechanics of, like, well, if I, disconnect this, like, no, that'll make it just fall. Like, well, what if I do this? Like, oh, but, it'll do this, and we can't do this, we can't do that because of these reasons.
This and this, and we're trying to save every life if possible.
Yeah, but there's just this huge battle between all these bots and the Avengers, and Scarlet Witch gets really, really afraid at one point.
I guess this is one thing I wanted to mention. The bots that are, it seems like there's like something like this in a lot of movies where all of Iron Man's bots, I mean, you would think they'd be top of the line, strong metal, but like all of a sudden you just destroy them with a quick flick of the wrist. They're all just exploding into pieces like they're made of, paper mache or something.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh,
but it's just this long,
there's
long,
thousands and thousands
battle.
of robots. They're all killing these robots, and
But back at the farm scene, Nick Fury says, like, I'm gonna go hook up with Maria Hill. Like, what are you gonna do? He's like, I don't know, something dramatic, I hope. Mm-hmm. And so they're on this like basically giant floating island portion of the city, and they're like, no matter what we do, everybody on this island is probably going to die if it falls or if it blows up.
Right.
Like, we need to get these people off somehow.
Yeah.
Because they had already started before the action sequence trying to evacuate the city, but everyone left on this portion of it. Like, everyone's gonna die. Like, no matter what we do.
Yeah.
And so then all of a sudden, Shield shows up with the helicarrier. He's like, yeah, we had to dust it off and everything, but we got it. So they send out all these little like boats basically to get all the civilians off.
Like
and
boat ships, flying in and loading all the civilians.
So that becomes like their top priority, like to get everybody off. And in the center of the city, there was this church, and that's where Ultron has this button, and when he presses this button, the rock shoots back down to Earth and blows it up.
Right.
And so he's like, we have to protect this button, make sure Ultron doesn't press it, and get everybody else off. So like another huge action sequence of them fighting everybody. Ultron and Vision fight is pretty badass.
Yeah.
And at one point, Tony is shooting his beams at Ultron. Thor is shooting his lightning at Ultron, and then Vision is shooting a beam out of his forehead at Ultron, which was fucking badass. I love that.
This is probably the second best scene of the whole movie, obviously, other than... I like the Hulkbuster versus Hulk the best.
Me too. I like that one the best. Just because I love Hulk so much, and seeing him as the rage monster Hulk,
right?
Nothing can stop him.
Yeah,
was really cool. Because if it was just regular Hulk, I'm sure Hulkbuster probably could have contained him fairly easily. Because he's not totally out of control.
Right.
This version of Hulk, anyway. But so because he was mind controlled, Rage Hulk, it was like there was nothing Tony could have done.
Stopping him.
Yeah. So I thought it was just so badass. But back to this fight scene, like they have to destroy every single bot. Because if they don't destroy every single bot, he can just jump from bot to bot.
Right.
And but Tony did find out that Jarvis was keeping him out of nuclear codes and stuff. Like Jarvis did survive in the beginning, but he like shut himself down, and all he was protocol. He wasn't like anything else.
Yeah.
So like we find that out, and with S.H.I.E.L.D. comes War Machine. I remember the first time I watched the movie, during the fight, I was like, "Where's War Machine? Like, why isn't he here?" And then all of a sudden, S.H.I.E.L.D. shows up, like, and then he's with S.H.I.E.L.D. I was like, "Yeah, there he is, hell yeah!" And he's like, "This is gonna make a great story." And Tony comes in, he's like, "If you survive," he says like, he's like, "I can hold my own." He's like, "Well, if you survive, I'll hold your own." He's like, you had to make it weird.
Right. Yeah.
That was pretty funny.
That's funny.
But at the end, they destroy.
Scarlet Witch is protecting the button at one point. So this is, I guess, kind of important. So Quicksilver is, helping, and
there's a scene where there's this kid who's left behind
they're loading everyone on. There's one last kid, and they're like, "Oh, get the kid." And
so Hawkeye's like, all right.
Here I go, and he's running out all slow, and all of a sudden there's a
ship that Ultron.
Oh no, Ultron's flying this jet. It looks like the one that Hawkeye had been flying.
Yeah, I think it was.
He grabbed it, but
and so he's shooting. And Hawkeye's
so these
like,
are faster than a speeding bullets. These are like they're in a blink. These are like whatever you call them, the ones that destroy tanks. I'm assuming, but. So Hawkeye's grabbing this kid, and there's like this slow motion scene, and Quicksilver's coming up behind him, or you don't see Quicksilver coming up, but it looks like Hawkeye's gonna die. And I think they do show a flash of Quicksilver, but all of a sudden,
Hawkeye turns around and because he didn't get shot, him and this kid
he's sitting there waiting to get shot, protecting this kid, and all of a sudden he's behind a car, and he looks over, and Quicksilver's lying there with bullet holes all over him, and
and he's like, "What? You didn't see this coming?" And he falls dead. And there was another because I said this was a running gag.
Yeah.
Because at the first time is when he caught his arrow in the beginning and then came and punched him in the face. Like, what? You didn't see that coming?
Yeah.
And then when Captain America first brings him back to Stark Tower, nobody trusts them. Like, what are they doing here? Like, it just shows him, and all of a sudden, he just sees a bullet coming up in front of him. He's like, huh, that's weird. It's in slow motion. To him, it's normal.
Yeah.
Because he's super fast, but he just sees this bullet flying up in slow motion. And then, because the Stark Tower, all the floors are made of glass.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, he falls through, and it was Hawkeye that shot the bullet underneath his feet. He's like, what, you didn't see that coming?
Yeah.
So it's just kind of this running gag between the two of them. And so then he dies, and what's-her-name feels it because they're twins, and she just freaks out, and she just screams, and everything around her just just gets destroyed.
There's a bunch of robots coming in on her, and they all just die.
Yeah, it was super badass. Yeah. But then, so she's super pissed, so she goes and I think Hulk might have jumped up and threw Ultron out of the ship or whatever. But anyway, somehow he gets thrown down on the ground.
Oh yeah, there is a part of that.
And then, so she comes up and she's like, you killed my brother, and I felt it. You want to know what it felt like? And she uses her mind control, rip out this mechanical heart from his body. Yeah. That's the way it felt.
Yeah.
But then while she's doing that, she wasn't protecting the button.
Yeah.
And one of the bots, that's half destroyed, comes and presses it, so it starts flying back down to Earth.
Right.
So I had to figure out what to do, and they came up with some kind of scheme to do it. And so Iron Man goes underneath. He does something, and he's like, "Now, Thor." So Thor's at the very center, where it was at the back of the button.
And he slams it.
Yeah, he shoots it with lightning and stuff.
And the whole entire gigantic ass island explodes.
Yeah, so instead of being one giant meteor splashing down to Earth and creating just a bunch of little debris everywhere.
Pieces of Earth, yeah.
So I'm sure hundreds of thousands of people died from that.
Would have died, right. But it was mostly in the ocean they tried to make it look like anyway. But,
yeah.
Although you would think it would come straight back down onto Earth. But.
Yeah, because they were in Sokovia. I didn't really see any oceans around there, but...
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah, anyway, so all is right with the world, except for,
the fact that Quicksilver's dead.
Yeah.
So it sucks for her.
Yeah, then they go back to the new Avengers facility that they built, which is kind of the re-beginnings of S.H.I.E.L.D., basically, and we get to see...
Captain America
and but no, because when Hulk jumped into that ship and threw Ultron out, he stayed in the ship.
Oh,
so then you see Black Widow on the screen, oh, hey, big guy, sun's getting real low, we need you to turn the ship around because it is a stealth ship,
and we can't see you. And right as she says that, he blinks it off. And
so he just Hulk just sits down in the cockpit. And they show it from outside. He's just this huge thing, this little tiny cockpit. It's really funny. But yeah, so even as Hulk, he knew I need to get away. Right. I can't be with these people anymore.
Yeah.
And so she's real sad. So she's just kind of staring at the wall, and everyone kind of has these nice words Thor, Cap, and Tony have this joke still about the hammer being picked up. Vision could pick it up. He's but he's not really human. He doesn't count.
Yeah.
It's
we didn't talk about that, by the way. At one point, Vision picks up the hammer. That's why they all start.
Oh yeah. When he creates the cape for himself, he's saying oh yeah, we need to go save the world.
And tosses the hammer.
Yeah, he hands Thor his hammer, and everyone's like.
Does that happen in comics? I don't know if Vision can pick up.
There have been multiple people have been able to pick up the hammer.
Okay.
I know Beta Ray Bill has been able to.
Right,
Thunderstrike, I think, was able to. I'm sure Vision was able to if they went with if the movie went with comic book, but
lore.
Yeah, and so Cap's well, what if we put it in an elevator? And Tony's it would still lift, but the elevator's not worthy. So it has to, things can lift the hammer, but people can't.
Yeah.
So that's what they were trying to make themselves feel better for not being able to.
Yeah.
Which was got a pretty big laugh. But Thor's all right, well, I need to go tell Asgard that the Infinity Gems have been found. Like somebody's doing something with these, and I need to warn some people, so I gotta go.
Yeah.
So he leaves, and Stark's like, maybe I should do the same thing Barton did, like, you know, have a farm for Pepper and hope nobody blows it up. And so he leaves, and Cap is left there. He's like, no, he's like, there's really nowhere else for me to go. So he's like, I'm home, right, here with Shield and the Avengers. And so Black Widow, Captain, Falcon, War Machine, and Scarlet Witch. Yeah, he's like, all right, Avengers. And then it cuts to the thing. Like in my first viewing, I had these fucking dumb shit kids behind me that kept making all these fucking stupid comments. He's like, "Oh, you bastards, cut it off right there!" I was like, "Oh, like stupid ass kids." Then the opening credits start happening, and
the ending credits anyway, and
then the mid credit scene is Thanos grabbing a gauntlet with no.
Well, flashes with a gauntlet, and then there's no
gems on it. He's like, fine, I'll do it myself, and he puts the glove on, and he kind of smiles, and you're like, damn, fuck yeah.
I mean, as awesome as that scene is, I thought Thanos, the way he looked. Is it Thanos? I say Thanos.
I've always said Thanos until these movies came out, and they start calling him Thanos. So
whatever.
I kind of adopted
that guy.
Yeah, but I've always said Thanos.
It looked alright. I mean, I don't know how else you can make Thanos look, but I don't know, the things on his chin, he looked too computery. He looked almost cartoony to me.
Yeah, he did look really cartoony, but he looked like that in Guardians. They showed a few screens of him in Guardians.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's just the way they've made him look. Yeah, his chin really kind of bothered me. Like, one, it's this huge chin.
Yeah.
You know, it puts fucking Bruce Campbell to shame.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the lines on the chin are like way too defined.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, but
we'll see how they do. I'm sure they'll work on it for the movie.
Yeah. I mean, overall, this movie was fucking awesome. All the jokes, all the laughs were great. I love it.
I think I'm gonna give it an A+, man. I don't think I'm not gonna say it doesn't get better than this, but I mean for what it was, I think they hit it out of the park, man.
Oh yeah, really for a summer team-up blockbuster type movie, like this was fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was really, really good.
Super awesome. I thought it was more enjoyable than the first Avengers.
Yeah, that was the other thing. I think definitely better.
Maybe because they had that under their belt already, you know.
Yeah.
Like the first time, it was like you had to establish them as meeting
Avengers.
each other for the first time and all that stuff, and
right.
So this one, like they kind of knew each other, like especially that opening scene, like they were a team in that opening scene. Then they kind of were falling apart throughout the movie, but just everybody got a good amount of screen time. Like I said, they didn't focus too much on the twins, which I'm really sad that Quicksilver died. I really liked him.
No, yeah, me too. Well, I like Quicksilver, but I mean, again, the actor, I didn't like him. I wish they had chosen someone else. But.
I don't know. Like, I didn't mind him. Like I've only seen him in. I haven't even watched Kick-Ass 2 yet. I've been putting it off. I don't know why. I just haven't watched it. But I liked him in Kick-Ass, and I haven't watched Nowhere Boy, where he plays a young John Lennon.
Oh, I've heard about that.
I haven't popped that in yet because I haven't been in Beetle mode.
I didn't know it was him. That's cool.
Yeah, I haven't been in Beetle mode yet, so I just haven't popped it in. And then I've seen him in Godzilla, and he was super fucking bland in that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was his fault or the director's fault, because he was good in Kick-Ass. I thought he was good in this.
Yeah.
So those are really the only two things I've ever seen him in besides Godzilla.
Yeah, same with me. Yeah, I haven't seen Nowhere Boy, so.
Yeah, and but I liked him in this. Their accents were adequate. I thought there were some points, especially with her,
it was a little
where
much.
like you could
see it was
like the first word of the sentence and like the last word of the sentence had the accent. But the middle one didn't.
Yeah.
But I liked him. Like there was a scene when they're on the rocks or the rock, the meteor thing, city
island or whatever.
And when Shield shows up and he's like he runs to the edge of the cliff. And he's like, wow, like this is Shield. And Cap's like, this is what Shield is supposed to be.
Yeah.
He's like, it's not so bad. Like I don't know. I liked him. The things that he did, and I like what they did with Quicksilver. You know, they didn't focus in on the super duper slow motion like X-Men did.
Right.
But you know, they did a little bit. Like he was fast. He did some things, and there was one scene where they're like, I think they're in the Stark Tower, and he kind of runs and he kind of like slows down, and it kind of looked like he was like skating back or like moonwalking kind of. And like I just thought that was really cool. Just the little things they did with him, I thought were cool. And how he was just wearing like an Under Armour shirt. Like he didn't have like a fancy shield get-up like Black Widow.
Well, there's even a point where he's like grabbing just running shoes. They're just
they're just plain running shoes. Yeah. So I liked how they didn't have like official like shield
armor or outfit, whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
So that was cool. I really liked what they did with pretty much every character.
Yeah, at the very end they show Black Widow. Did it again!
I
Scarlet Witch.
Scarlet Witch.
But wearing like an actual Scarlet Witch outfit, I thought that was kind of cool. I was hoping that eventually she would wear some kind of a red costume with a cape, or at least those ones that like hang from your wrist, something like that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. She's mega hot. But you had mentioned at the very end that she almost looked like a different actress.
Yeah, that one shot where it was like the new Avengers with War Machine and Falcon.
Yeah.
And it was like a shot from like almost like beneath her.
Yeah.
And it looked like a completely different actor, like an Asian actress, I thought.
Yeah, she looked different enough to where I could see what you were saying, but I'm pretty sure it was.
It just must have been the
enough
angle
makeup
and stuff. But yeah, what a badass movie. The action sequences were all really badass. Everybody got cool screen time. Tony Stark, I loved him in the first one and the second one. The third one, I hated that movie. In Avengers, I thought he was really good. But I think after Avengers, it just seemed like Robert Downey Jr. lost interest in the character. Like, it just doesn't...
Well, I actually saw him on, not Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon. I watched a video with him. It was recent, too, and it was... He's like, well, okay, so you're an actor, obviously, Robert Downey Jr., and he's like, yeah, so he's like, we're going to randomly have you act out things, so I remember one of them was calm, and he's like, I'm so relaxed I can't even hear what you're saying right now. Like, they just kept going with it. It was like or what do you call it, impromptu, or, you know what I mean?
Improvisation.
Improvising, right, and it was really funny, but he has, like, jowls now, he's getting old, and I was noticing, like, from watching that and watching him in the movie, there must have been CG on his face. I mean, they always do anyway, but... I don't know. I don't know that he lost... He's just getting older.
He's getting older. I think...
you kind of hate him. I think he was kind of being forlorn and melancholy. Obviously, a lot of this is his fault throughout the movie, so he's not as upbeat, maybe that's what you're...
Yeah, but he didn't seem upbeat in Iron Man 3. I mean, but he was kind of, like, weird and, like, PTSD about the whole... alien thing from Avengers 1, but I don't know, it just seems like the actor isn't as enthusiastic about it anymore.
Yeah.
And it kind of comes through in his performance.
Could be. I mean, obviously when Iron Man's new and it's been over a decade now, so...
Well, not over, it was 08, so...
Well, from the first Iron Man?
Yeah,
08?
Yeah.
Was it really?
Yep.
That was earlier. Damn. Alright, well, it's been a long time, so obviously it's not fresh and new anymore, you're not as excited, so...
Yeah, and he's getting older, but...
Not that I should give him any excuses. I mean, shit. Do your job,
Yeah, but everything was... Like, who are your favorite Avengers from the movie? From this movie, because they added a few more.
The new ones aren't going to do it for me. I mean, I like Thor. I've always loved Thor, and I've always really liked Iron Man. I mean, from the movie, though, I have to say... I mean, the Hulk was really cool in this. But I don't like, Bruce Banner in the movie, so... Thor. I'm going to go with Thor. Thor's my favorite.
Thor's my favorite, too. But I like... he's the god. Well, basically, the alien come down. He's not... He's more in tune with humanity now that he's been on Earth for a while, since the end of Thor 2.
Right.
He's, like, dating Jane. And that whole party scene, like... he's not quite... on the same plane as everybody else.
What is it? Assimilated.
Yeah, so there's still that a little bit of fish out of water with him, but not quite. And I just really love Thor. Everything he does and says, I think, is just great. And I think he kind of got shorthanded in this movie. Like, he did a few cool things and stuff like that. Of course, everybody did, but him like disappearing for a while to go to that pool.
Coming back and be like, I know what to do. Vision, boom.
So I thought they could have done a little bit more with Thor, and then he left to go back to Asgard. Which the next one's going to be Thor Ragnarok, where it's basically Armageddon for Asgard. So, I like Captain America and Thor, my two favorites from the movies.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I love the Hulk.
Oh, well, Captain America.
But you're right. Like, I can't. I don't like Bruce Banner all that much, and the whole romance. Like, I like how they threw some kind of romance in there, because it would have just been a huge action movie with no romance and stuff.
Right.
So I don't mind that. But
the fact that it was Bruce Banner kind of ruined his role.
Yeah. So I don't like that as much as I probably could. Like the Hulk, whenever he's on screen.
Right.
Like anytime like there was, especially in that opening sequence when like it was everybody, I was looking for Hulk and Thor. Those are my two favorites,
Yeah.
I think as characters, I like Thor in Captain America.
I gotta disagree with you, Captain America. I think he's the boringest character. I think he was invented just to put like an American patriotic character in the Marvel universe. You know.
Well, first it wasn't Marvel. It was whatever. There was tons of comic companies back in the day. Yeah. They all kind of got assimilated and stuff. Like with the whole Shazam thing we were talking about. He wasn't DC originally.
Well, anyway, either way, I just don't like the character super serum. He's kind of boring, you know. Shield.
Yeah, like I've never been interested in reading his comics or anything like that. I've been getting more into comics and reading more comic books and stuff, and I don't have any Captain America. Like, even though I liked the first Captain America all right, and I liked him in Avengers, I loved the Winter Soldier, and I really liked him in this, I'm still not interested in reading any of these comic books. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know? But I do read Thor comics.
I totally agree. That's my thought on Captain America.
Yeah, but in the movies, I really like.
Maybe if I had one, I'd read it. But I wouldn't go out and buy a Captain America comic.
Yeah, but I really love him in these movies. I just think he's really cool because he is like the Boy Scout and he wants to do the right thing all the time. But
yeah, that's true. I guess as far as you know, Iron Man, they all had their
personalities.
Really, other than Thor, but like their shortcomings, their problems. But Captain America, all throughout, he's always for good and justice. And,
I like
integrity.
Like after the thing with Ultron, like throughout the movie, he's like, Iron Man's like what about the alien invasion? Like there's it's gonna happen again eventually. Like, and what do you guys plan on doing about that? He's like, well, we'll do it together. It's like we'll fail. Like, we'll do that together too. Like Captain America's just so badass. Like I love him in these movies. Like I love seeing him on screen, and I think the suits throughout the movies have gotten better and better.
Captain America in particular. The way that the stripes come up into his breast, I didn't like that. I like the old one better.
Okay, well, this one I thought
looked cooler.
Like his ab region with those stripes looked more like his Captain America suit from the first Avenger. Because he had two suits in that one. The silly costume where he was, come on guys, give us war bonds. And then he just put on like real gear over that. Yeah. And then he had an actual Captain America costume. Right. Or suit. Which he ended up putting back on at the end of Winter Soldier. The ab region where the stripes are, in this movie looked more like that suit. The one that he wore at the end of both Cap movies. Yeah. Just the way it was. It looked more like his first Captain America suit. The one in Avengers was a superhero suit. Right. That wasn't a S.H.I.E.L.D. suit. That was a superhero Captain America suit. Yeah. So this one, I don't know. I like the star, how like the red around it came out.
The top of the star also ends in his it was like a V-neck almost, and like the top of the star is interrupted with the V-neck. I
didn't even notice that. No.
Check it out.
I don't know. I liked this costume better than the one from Avengers. Okay. But I gotta say, it's a tie between this costume and the Winter Soldier costume, his S.H.I.E.L.D. costume, the dark one with just the star and like the lines. Yeah. It didn't have the stripes. Yeah. I like those two costumes. Right. But yeah, Thor throughout the movies has gotten better. Yeah. I think this might be. It's probably a little bit different, but it basically looks the same as Thor 2, The Dark World, where it had like the this kind of skirt thing.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah. Well, it's not like a skirt. Like
chainmail.
These things like coming down like over his crotch. Okay. And, so it's not just pants. He has pants and this thing over it. So that, to me, makes it look way better.
I'll have to take another look. I didn't look at that. I was mostly looking at the discs on his own. Yeah. This looked a little bit different to me. I don't know if it was. But
well, every movie he's gotten a little bit different. And I like in this movie, like, he was wearing just like the vest. It didn't even have the discs. Yeah. Because in the first Avengers, he had just the vest with the disc, but no scale mail on his arm. Right. So you can see like his actual physical arms. But in this, he didn't even have any of the intricacies on the vest. It was just his under vest, and he looked really cool like that. Yeah. So, I don't know what else to say with this movie. It is super fucking badass.
It's worth a watch. Definitely watch it.
Yeah. I can't wait to see what Phase 3 brings us. And actually, I read that this doesn't end Phase 2. Ant-Man ends Phase 2.
Oh, okay.
And then Phase 3 starts.
Ant-Man, I'm kind of excited for it.
I am. I thought it looked really cool from that second preview they've released. I think it looks really, really good.
It looks okay.
I think it looks better than what I initially thought it could have been.
It's like, I'm going to get small and then punch you, and there's just like the Thomas the Train coming. We'll talk about Ant-Man when we watch it.
But. Yeah, but this movie, oh my god, it's so good. The voice acting of James Spader, like I said, I got more in tune with the second viewing of him being like weird.
By the way, the guy that plays Vision, he's the guy from. Have you seen Beautiful Mind? He's in a few things, but
yeah, no, he plays the voice of Jarvis. They even say like, why does Vision sound like Jarvis?
Oh, really? Is it the same guy?
Yeah, it's Paul Bettany. He was in A Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger.
Right. Okay, so he's in Beautiful Mind. He plays the imaginary friend from A Beautiful Mind.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's right. I haven't seen Beautiful Mind in a long time.
Yeah. I mean, he's in a lot of things, but
yeah, he is.
How did you like him as Vision? I thought it worked, but
yeah, his face is a little like thin. Yeah, but overall, I thought he did a great job of being like a robot that's kind of human.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I liked it.
I thought it worked alright, but yeah, I mean, I could see his face, and then it kind of threw me off. I wish it was a more nondescript face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Less recognizable would have been more for me. You know, just.
I mean, I'm glad they gave Paul Bettany a physical body instead of just being the voice of Jarvis.
Yeah.
I liked how when Jarvis was like dead, or when he was Vision, Tony went with a different voice in his helmet. It was a woman's voice named Friday.
Right.
So I like that. That was a little change. So because there's not going to be any more Iron Man movies, but he is going to be in the next Avengers and the next Captain America, which is basically going to be Avengers 2.5 because it's going to be Civil War. So it's going to involve pretty much everybody.
Right.
And so I'm interested to see if they keep with this Friday voice or change it again, because it looked like it had a bunch of discs of different voices and stuff. So
Captain Friday.
Yeah. So yeah, I liked the change of voices, because now that we see Jarvis in physical form, why do we need to hear him as well? Then maybe for the audience it would be like, are they talking to Vision or Jarvis?
Right.
You know.
Yeah. That's
so
true.
So I'm glad that they changed it.
Yeah.
If not for any other reason than that.
I'm sure that is why they did that.
Yeah, probably.
Because Jarvis has never been a woman in my experience.
No, in the comics, Jarvis is a physical butler, like Alfred
right. Yeah, sure.
for Batman. So
that was new to the movie anyway.
Yeah.
Just keep it a girl. I'm sure they will. I'm sure that was the thinking there. But
yeah.
All right.
Anyway, we both give it A+. Go fucking
A+,
see it.
Yeah,
it is
go
amazing.
Watch it, definitely.
And I cannot wait.
Watch it in theaters. Don't wait for the DVD. Buy the DVD too while you're at it. But
yeah, definitely see it in theaters. It's totally worth the money.
Right.
We did not see it in 3D. Neither of us like 3D.
Yeah, I don't really care.
Or do you like 3D?
I watched it. I don't hate it. I'll watch it either way. I don't really care one way or the other.
Oh, I hate 3D.
I don't have a preference, yeah.
Every movie I've seen in 3D hasn't enhanced the viewing. It kind of crippled the viewing.
There's been a couple that I think might have enhanced. Like when I saw, what was the one with the blue people?
Avatar?
I
didn't see that one in theaters.
See, there's certain ones that are made for 3D, and I think maybe you should spend the extra money.
But I don't know. I'm not sure if I've ever seen a movie that was filmed in 3D. I think I've only seen post-conversion 3D.
No.
And I've never liked any of them. So I'm not sure if I've actually seen an actual 3D movie, but I just don't like it.
In this case, I don't think it would have helped. I think it would have been a detriment, you know what I mean? So
yeah, there's so much going on. Like,
right.
Oh my god.
It'd be a distraction, and
yeah,
I would just say watch it in high definition, but not 3D necessarily.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was fucking amazing. I can't believe it.
Yeah, really.
It finally happened.
Yeah.
Yep.
Looking forward.
Yeah, well, next is going to be Ant-Man.
All right.
Yeah, so until then, we are your hosts, Movie Master Mike.
And Boston Boy.
Reminding you to speak your geek.
Balance your geek.
With Geekilibrium.